Welcome back. This is Module 4 of the 5-part training series focused on the Section 8 Management Assessment Program, also known as SEMAP, for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The purpose of this training is to provide an overview of SEMAP and key information to help PHAs effectively manage their Housing Choice Voucher Program for SEMAP success. Each module of this training is self-paced and can be started or stopped at any time. This module will continue the discussion of each indicator in greater depth and provide key information to add to your PHA toolkit to manage your HCV program for SEMAP success. We begin our discussion focusing in on indicators related to managing leasing. This includes indicators 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 13, and 15. SEMAP Indicator 2 measures whether a PHA has a written policy governing the determination of a reasonable rent to owner in compliance with HUD regulations, and if the PHA has implemented the policy as stated in the administrative plan. When determining rent reasonableness, the location, unit size, housing type, unit quality and age, amenities, housing service, maintenance, and utilities provided by the owner all must be taken into consideration. HUD's rent reasonableness standard is designed to ensure that rents being paid are reasonable in relation to rents being charged for comparable unassisted units in the same market. Rent reasonableness determinations must be completed at the time of initial leasing, before any increase in the rent to the owner, and at the HAP contract anniversary if there was a 10% or more decrease in the published FMR in effect 60 days before the HAP contract anniversary. To prepare for SEMAP success, PHAs should ensure that rent reasonableness is included as a written policy in the admin plan. PHAs should also have readily available a list of assisted families and all reasonable rent determinations. As part of the SEMAP assessment process, PHAs are required to certify that they maintain up-to-date utility allowance schedules and that they use them to calculate correct utility allowances for participating families. SEMAP Indicator 4, Utility Allowance Schedule, requires the PHA certification that an annual utility allowance review has been conducted and that the utility allowance schedule has been adjusted where there was a change of 10% or more in the rate for a utility since the last revision. The PHA should retain all information used in the annual review, whether or not revisions are made, and should document any revisions made. A PHA is required to maintain a utility allowance schedule for tenant-paid utilities, tenant-supplied refrigerators and ranges, and other tenant-paid housing services, such as trash collection. For each category, the schedule must take into consideration the type and size of the unit and the type of utility used. When establishing a utility allowance schedule, a PHA should make every effort to base the allowances on actual rates and average consumption estimates that will be adequate to cover expected average utility costs over the 12-month period. The PHA's utility allowance schedule must be entered on Form HUD 52667, Allowances for Tenant-Furnished Utilities and Other Services. When a family has located a unit and submitted a request for tenancy approval, the PHA can calculate the actual utility allowance for the family. The request for tenancy approval identifies the utilities the tenant must pay and the utilities the owner will cover, as well as the structure type and unit size. To prepare for the SEMAP review, have readily available the following: utility allowance schedule for prior fiscal year, utility allowance schedule for current fiscal year, utility allowance study, and board resolution, if applicable. Family briefings are relevant to both indicators 7 and 15, which are around expanding housing opportunity beyond areas of concentrated poverty. The briefing session is a key time to educate participants about these options. Every voucher recipient must receive a briefing, and that can be held either individually or in a group. The PHA will provide a voucher information packet to the voucher recipient that includes information about family responsibilities, how the HCV program works, how to search for a unit, and this is a chance as well to give information about opportunity areas. Briefings should explain to participants how long the initial voucher search time is and the length of a number of extensions that can be requested to extend the search. Briefings should also include information for voucher holders on searching for units in opportunity areas and the benefits of living in these areas. This material can earn PHA's points for SEMAP Indicator 7. A PHA will have success with Indicator 7 if they have reviewed and have ready a copy of their information briefing packet, copies of maps shared with HCV families which identify areas of opportunity, rental unit listings, and portability information. Indicator 8 measures whether a PHA has adopted proper payment standards. The PHA must have a payment standard for each unit size and for each fair market rent in the PHA jurisdiction. Payment standards must be between 90 and 110% of the fair market rent set by HUD, unless a higher or lower exception payment standard has been approved by HUD. The maximum a PHA can pay is the payment standard less the total tenant payment. Maximum subsidy calculation may be done when the family is issued a voucher, and the actual subsidy is calculated when the family selects a unit. Readying for the annual SEMAP certification, PHA should have available the following items: payment standards prior and current fiscal year, HUD-published FMRs prior and current fiscal year, payment standard analysis, and board resolution if applicable. Indicator 13 is regarding the lease-up process. One aspect of the lease-up process that is essential to execute correctly is the HAP contract between the PHA and the owner. The HAP contract, which authorizes HAP payments to the owner, must not be completed before the unit passes its initial HQS inspection or before a rent reasonableness report has been completed approving the contract rent. A tenancy addendum must be attached to all HAP contracts, and under no circumstances can any payments be made to the owner before the HAP contract is completed. The HAP contract should be signed no later than 60 days after the lease term starts. A new HAP contract should be signed whenever the lease is revised. Additionally, at the end of the tenancy, no payment can be made to the owner either after the family moves out or after the lease term ends, whichever comes first. A HAP contract is executed between the owner and PHA when the owner and unit are both approved. This means that it has been confirmed that the owner is in good standing and has not been debarred, suspended, or denied participation, and that the unit has passed HQS. The HAP contract and the lease between the owner and tenant must run concurrently. A new HAP contract is required for changes in tenant or owner responsibilities for utilities, or if the family moves even within the same building. A PHA may not make HAP payment until the HAP contract is signed by the owner. The HAP contract must be signed no more than 60 days after the effective date. If the HAP contract is not signed within 60 days of lease effective date, the contract is void and no assistance can be paid to the owner. This ends Module 4.